My name is Beatrice Hartwell and I'm 83 years old. I've lived a long, full life in the small town of Blue Ridge, Texas, where everyone knows everyone. My hair is mostly silver now. My hands have seen decades of hard work, and my heart, well, my heart has been heavy with the kind of love only time can build. But there's something my family doesn't know about me, something they never will. And it's something that's about to change everything. It all started one cold autumn afternoon when I was sitting on my front porch, knitting a scarf, just like I do every year as the days shorten and the air turns crisp. The letter came in a plain envelope, just a simple piece of paper inside. No return address, no name, just a sentence. You've inherited millions, Beatrice. It's yours to keep, but it must remain secret. I sat there for a long time, staring at the letter as the wind blew past. I could hear the rustling of the leaves in the yard, the sound of the town settling into its familiar rhythm, but none of it mattered anymore. My mind raced, trying to grasp the enormity of what I was holding in my hands. Millions. I've worked hard my whole life. Raised my children, cared for my husband, struggled through the lean years when every penny mattered. I've never been one for luxuries, always content with a simple life, my small home, my quiet existence. And yet, in a single moment, everything changed. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen by the truth of it. My children, my grandchildren, everyone in this town, they all think I'm just another old woman, scraping by, living off a pension and a few small savings. But the truth is, I have more money than they could ever imagine. And I've kept it hidden for years. Why? Why would I keep this secret from the people I love? From the family that's been everything to me? The answer isn't simple, but it's coming. And you'll hear it soon enough. But now the question remains. What do I do with this secret? Do I tell my children and watch their faces change forever? Or do I keep it buried, tucked away like a treasure no one knows about? And who else knows? The letter said it must remain secret. But someone sent it. Someone knows what I've been hiding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I folded the letter, tucked it into my pocket, and made a decision. I wasn't going to let anyone, no one, decide my future for me. But the journey I was about to take would make the secrets I've kept seem like nothing compared to what was yet to come. The next few days were a blur of confusion and contemplation. Every corner of my house, every room I walked through, seemed to whisper secrets that had been hidden for far too long. The letter weighed on me like a heavy stone, sitting deep in my chest, pressing against my ribs. What was I supposed to do with this newfound knowledge? I'd always been a woman who believed in simplicity. Hard work, honesty, kindness, that's what I lived by. So why, after all these years, was I suddenly holding on to a fortune that I had never even known existed? I couldn't stop thinking about the phrase, "It must remain secret." Why? Who had sent it? And what did they mean by that? Who else knew about the money I now held in my hands? I decided to keep it to myself for a little longer, just until I could make sense of it all. But the more I thought about it, the more the memories started to surface. The old ones, the painful ones, the reasons why I had never told my children or anyone else about what I had really inherited. It was a long time ago, 40 years to be exact. My husband, Thomas, and I were living in a modest house on the edge of town. I was in my early 40s, raising our two children, Sarah and Jack, while Thomas worked at the local mill. We weren't rich by any means, but we had enough. Thomas was the kind of man who believed in working for everything he had. He never spoke much about his past, and I never pressed him to. But there were always whispers, things I overheard in the kitchen, rumors in town about his old family, about a fortune left behind by some distant relative. One day, after Thomas passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack, I found a letter hidden in his desk. It was from a law firm, confirming that Thomas had inherited a large sum of money from his estranged father. But the letter also came with a condition, something about keeping the inheritance private, a condition that would never allow us to touch the money unless we kept it a secret. I didn't understand why Thomas never told me. Maybe he had been ashamed of his family, or perhaps there was something darker at play. But that night, after his funeral, I made a choice. I decided to honor his wishes, to keep the secret buried. I had no idea what the inheritance was worth, or why it was so important to Thomas, but I respected his wishes and sealed the letter away. I never spoke a word of it to anyone, not even to my children. Now, as I sat there, holding the letter that confirmed everything I had suspected, I realized how much my past had shaped the woman I had become. I had lived a life of honesty, worked hard to raise my children with integrity, but I had kept this secret locked away for all these years. And now, at the age of 83, I was faced with a decision that would change everything. What was I supposed to do with this inheritance? Was it time to reveal it? Or would doing so tear my family apart? As I stared at the letter in my hands, I knew one thing for sure. The past I had buried was about to resurface, and the truth would be more powerful than I had ever imagined. But the question remained: what would I do next? The days after finding the letter were strange, filled with a sense of unease that I couldn't shake. I tried to keep busy, cooking meals, tending to the garden, but the weight of the secret I carried was always there, looming in the background of everything I did. My children were coming to visit that weekend, and I could feel the tension building, knowing that I would have to tell them what I had kept hidden for all these years. I sat at the kitchen table, the letter in front of me, my hands clasped tightly around a cup of tea. The house smelled like cinnamon, just like it always did when they were coming over. Sarah with her husband and 2 kids, and Jack, who never seemed to stay in one place for too long. I used to be so proud of my family, of the life we had built, but now everything felt different. The money, what would it do to us? Would they see me as a different person, or worse? Would they resent me for keeping it a secret? When Sarah and Jack arrived, I was surprised by how much I had missed them. The children, my grandchildren, ran straight into my arms, calling out to me like they always did. For a brief moment it felt like everything was still simple, still good. But that feeling quickly faded as I looked at my children. Grown now, their lives full of responsibilities I could only imagine. We sat down to dinner, just like we always did, the old routine I had carried with me for decades. The conversation was light at first. How work was going, how school was for the grandkids, the weather. But I knew that tonight things would change. Tonight I would have to tell them everything. "Mom," Sarah said, her voice soft but with that unmistakable note of concern, "you've been acting strange lately. Is everything okay?" I hesitated. The words caught in my throat, tangled with years of fear and doubt. But the truth was like a dam waiting to break, and I could feel it pushing against the walls I had built around it. Cleared my throat. "There's something I need to tell you both. Something about your father, and me." Jack raised an eyebrow, setting his fork down. "What's this about, Mom?" I took a deep breath. "I inherited money, a lot of it. More than you could ever imagine. It's from your father's side of the family, a fortune he never told you about. I kept it a secret because I thought it was better that way. But now I think it's time you both knew." Silence fell over the table. Sarah's eyes widened, and Jack blinked, as if he couldn't process what I was saying. I could see the shock in their faces, the disbelief. "Millions?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking slightly. He nodded. "Yes, millions. It's been sitting in an account for years, waiting for the right time. And that time is now." Jack stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Why didn't you tell us, Mom? All this time you kept it from us. All these years you've struggled and you never said a word." His voice cracked with anger and confusion. "I thought it was better this way," I said, my own voice quivering. "I didn't want you to see me differently. I didn't want you to think I had some hidden agenda, or that I was holding out on you. But this is a big deal." Jack's voice rose. "Why didn't you trust us with this? Why carry that burden alone when we could have helped?" "I didn't want it to change who we were," I whispered. "I didn't want to lose you to greed or guilt." Sarah's eyes softened, and she reached across the table, taking my hand. "Mom, we don't care about the money. We care about you. But why keep this from us? Why hide it all this time?" I looked at both of them, my heart aching with regret. "Because I didn't know what it would do to us, to you. And now, I see I should have trusted you with it sooner." But I was afraid. Afraid of what the money might do to our family. Jack paced the room, his hand running through his hair. I don't know what to feel, Mom. This changes everything. Why didn't you tell us? The tears finally came, unbidden. I wiped them away quickly, but Sarah saw them, her eyes filled with sympathy. I was wrong, I said softly. I was wrong to keep it from you, but I did it because I love you. I didn't want you to change. I didn't want you to look at me and see a woman with money instead of a mother. I wanted to stay your mom, not just some rich woman. The room was heavy with tension, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. For a moment no one said anything. But then Sarah spoke again, her voice steady. We're still your kids, Mom. Nothing changes that. But this is a lot to process. We need time to understand why you kept it a secret. But we'll figure this out together. And that, in a strange way, was a relief. The days after the dinner felt heavy. Sarah and Jack were quieter than usual, processing everything I had told them in their own ways. I could feel the distance between us growing, like an invisible wall was being built, one brick at a time, every time they looked at me with that mix of confusion and hurt in their eyes. I spent my mornings sitting by the window, watching the birds flutter around the yard, the calm of nature offering a temporary respite from the storm swirling in my home. The silence in the house was deafening. I wanted to go back to how things were before I told them, before the truth had come out. But I couldn't take it back. I had chosen to speak, and now I had to live with the consequences. Sarah was the first to call me. She hadn't come over since the dinner, but today her voice on the other end of the line sounded softer, like she was ready to talk. Mom, she said, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, and I get it. You do. You wanted to protect us. But, she paused, and I could hear her struggling to find the right words. But why did you keep it from us for so long? We're your family. We could have helped. We should have been there for you. I let out a long sigh, running my fingers over the worn wood of the kitchen table. I thought it was best to keep it hidden. I thought you might change or that you'd think of me differently. I didn't want money to be the thing that defined our relationship. But you were wrong, she said, her voice rising slightly. We're not defined by what you have, Mom. But you've made us feel like we're strangers to you. We don't know you anymore. The word stung. She was right in a way. I had kept this secret for so long that it had changed the very fabric of our family. I wasn't sure who I was anymore either, after hiding something so significant. We'll work through this, I promise, Sarah added, her tone softer now. But I need time. I think we both need time to process what this means. I understand, I said, my voice cracking with emotion. Take all the time you need, sweetheart. I'll be here when you're ready. The phone call ended, and I sat there, feeling the weight of her words. That was all I had left to give them. Time to heal, time to rebuild, time to make them understand why I did what I did. But I wasn't sure if time would be enough. That evening Jack stopped by. He didn't call first, didn't ask if it was okay. He just showed up, his face set with determination. I could see the anger still simmering under the surface, but there was something else too, sadness. Mom, he started, his voice low. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. And honestly, I don't know where to start. Start with how you're feeling, I said gently, hoping he'd open up. I feel betrayed, he said, his eyes finally meeting mine. Not just by you, but by the whole idea of it. You kept this secret for years, and I don't even know why. We're your family. We should have known. You should have trusted us. I thought I was protecting you, I said, my hands shaking. But I see now I was just keeping you in the dark. And for that I am so sorry, Jack. I don't want to hurt you. I just wanted to keep everything normal. Normal. He shook his head, his jaw tight. Nothing about this is normal, Mom. And I don't even know what to do with all of this. How do I even look at you the same way? How do I trust you again? His words cut deep, deeper than I ever expected. The silence stretched between us, and for a moment, I thought I might lose him entirely. I know I've made mistakes, I whispered. But I'm still your mother, Jack. I'm still the woman who raised you, who cared for you. This money doesn't change that. But in that moment, I realized he wasn't just angry at the money. He was angry because I had lied to him. I had kept something from him for so long that it felt like the foundation of our relationship had been cracked beyond repair. I don't know if I can forgive you right now, Mom, Jack said quietly, his voice cracking. I don't know if I can get past this. I understand, I replied, my heart breaking. I'll give you the space you need. But I hope one day you'll see that I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to protect you, even if it didn't make sense. Jack left shortly after that, and I sat alone in the quiet house, surrounded by the weight of my actions. I had expected the money to change everything, but I never thought it would cost me my family. Strange, really, how the distance between people can grow so quietly. It doesn't start with a fight or a harsh word. No, it begins with silence. A silence that lingers, festers, and slowly takes root in the cracks of a relationship. After Jack and Sarah's reactions, things changed. Not in big, dramatic ways, but in the little moments, the ones that build up over time. There was a tension in the house now, a space between us that wasn't there before. The laughter that once filled the rooms during family dinners was replaced by awkward silences, and the small, everyday interactions now felt strained, as though every word was measured. I tried to reach out to them, of course. I called Sarah a few days after Jack had left. She picked up after the first ring, but her voice was distant. Mom, I know you didn't mean to hurt us, she said, her words soft but heavy. But you can't expect us to just forget everything. You've kept this secret for so long. It's hard to just move on like nothing happened. I don't expect you to forget, I said quietly. But I need you to know that the love I have for you hasn't changed. That's not something the money can touch. I believe you, she said, but there was still a wall in her voice. But it's just going to take time, okay? We need space to figure this out. I hung up feeling a little emptier than before. Space. That's all they seemed to need. And I understood. But it didn't make the waiting any easier. A week passed before Jack called again. His voice was tight when he spoke. I've been thinking, Mom. About everything. About the money, about the family, about us. And I'm not saying I'm ready to forgive you, but I think we need to talk about what happens next. I don't want you to forgive me just because you feel like you have to, I said, my voice steady. I want you to forgive me because you wanted Jack. That's the only way it'll mean something. He was quiet for a long moment, and I could hear the sound of traffic in the background. I knew he was trying to gather his thoughts, trying to make sense of it all. I know, he finally said. But that's the thing, Mom. We've been a family, and this secret, it changes everything. It's not just about the money. It's about trust. And right now that's broken. I don't know how long it'll take to fix it, but I'm willing to try. For you. For us. His words were both a relief and a burden. I felt a flicker of hope, but I also knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to rebuild. But even with the weight of his words hanging in the air, there was something else I couldn't shake. A feeling that something deeper, something far more complicated, was at play here. This money wasn't just about wealth. It was about control, about the fear of being abandoned, about the secrets that kept us all locked in our own worlds. I spent the next few days trying to make sense of it. I tried calling Sarah again, but her response was always the same, polite but distant. The silence between us stretched on, and I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever get back to the way things were before the truth came out. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and my heart skipped a beat when I opened it. Standing there was Sarah, her eyes red from crying, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "Mom," she said softly, "can we talk?" I stepped aside to let her in, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. The moment when I would finally hear the truth of how my children really felt about the secret I had kept for so long. She sat down at the kitchen table, her gaze avoiding mine. For a long time she didn't say anything. The silence was almost unbearable, and I felt my hands begin to shake. "I know I've hurt you," I said, breaking the silence. "But you have to understand. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't want the money to change anything. But I see now it has. And I don't know how to fix that." Sarah finally looked up at me. Her eyes filled with something between sadness and anger. "You didn't just keep the money from us, Mom. You kept yourself from us. All these years you were hiding parts of you. I don't know who you are anymore." Her words hit like a punch to the gut. "I'm still your mother," I whispered, feeling the tears welling up. "I'm still the woman who raised you, the one who loved you every single day. But I made mistakes. I kept things from you, and I see now how that's hurt you. I don't know if I can ever see you the same way again," Sarah said quietly. I don't know if I can get over this." I sat there in silence, watching the daughter I had raised walk out the door. My heart felt like it was breaking into pieces, each one sharp and jagged. The days after Sarah left were some of the loneliest I'd ever known. The house felt colder, quieter, as if the walls themselves were mourning the distance that had crept between us. I spent my mornings walking through the rooms, touching things that used to hold meaning. Sarah's old stuffed bear on the shelf, the picture of Jack and me at his high school graduation, but none of it felt like it belonged to me anymore. I had always known that my family was my heart, but now it felt as though my heart was breaking in two. The guilt I carried for keeping this secret for so long was suffocating. I had told myself I was protecting them, but now I understood how foolish that had been. Secrets don't protect. They imprison. It wasn't just the money that had caused the rift between us. It was everything I had kept hidden. The years of silence. The emotional walls I had built to protect myself from a world that felt too overwhelming. All those years I had buried my fears, my dreams, my regrets. And now it was all coming to light. It was on a Tuesday afternoon that I got the call. It was Jack. His voice sounded different, less angry, but still cautious. "Mom, I've been thinking about everything we've talked about." My heart skipped. "I know we've got a lot of healing to do," Jack continued. "And I don't have all the answers yet, but I want you to know that I'm willing to try. For us." I sat down, my hands gripping the phone tighter. "What do you mean?" I think we need to go through this together. We need to understand why you kept the secret. And maybe we can start over. But this time there can't be any more secrets. We need to face everything." Tears stung my eyes as I sat in the stillness of my kitchen, hearing my son's words. I had spent so many years fearing this moment, but now, hearing him say those words, I felt something shift. Maybe it wasn't too late after all. Maybe we could rebuild. "Thank you, Jack," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a chance." "We're family, Mom. We'll get through this," he said. "But I need you to understand something. This won't be easy. We'll need to talk. Really talk. And I need you to be honest with me, with all of us." "I will. I promise," I whispered. That evening, I sat down to write a letter, one I had been avoiding for so long. I knew I had to tell Sarah everything, not just about the money, but about the reasons I kept it all hidden. She deserved that much. As I wrote, I realized something. The money didn't matter. What really mattered was the truth. The truth about who I had been and who I wanted to be. And maybe, just maybe, Sarah would understand. The next morning, I drove to Sarah's house, clutching the letter in my hands. My heart pounded as I knocked on the door, hoping that she was ready to listen. When she opened it, I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of everything I had put on her. But there was something else too, something softening in her gaze, something that told me she was open to hearing me, even if it was just a crack. "Mom," she said, her voice wary. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know," I replied, holding up the letter. "But I need you to read this. I need you to understand why I did what I did. And maybe, just maybe, we can start healing." She took the letter from my hands, her fingers brushing against mine. I saw her glance at it, the hesitation written all over her face. But then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay, Mom. I'll read it. But only if you promise to be honest. No more secrets." I promise, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. No more secrets. As Sarah closed the door behind me, I felt a sense of hope that had been missing for so long. Maybe the distance wasn't permanent. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. The days after Sarah took the letter from me were filled with a quiet anticipation I couldn't shake. Every phone call, every knock on the door, every movement in my house seemed to carry the weight of what was coming. Sarah had agreed to read my letter, but I knew that it wasn't just about the words on that page. It was about the years of silence, the years of secrets, and whether or not my children could ever forgive me for keeping them in the dark for so long. The next morning Sarah called. She didn't say much at first, just asked if I was free to talk. My heart raced as I prepared myself for whatever she had to say. "I've read your letter, Mom," Sarah began, her voice steady but soft. "And I can't say I wasn't angry when I first saw it. You kept this secret from us for so long, and I can't understand why. But after reading it, I think I get it. In a way." I felt a glimmer of hope rise inside me. Maybe, just maybe, we were going to get through this. "Sarah, I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was only pushing you away," I said, my voice trembling. "I should have told you. You deserved the truth, and I kept it from you out of fear. Fear of what the money would do to us, to our family. Fear of losing you." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment I thought she might hang up, too angry to continue. But then she spoke again, her voice softer this time. "You didn't lose us, Mom," she said. "You've hurt us, yes, but we're still your family. It's just going to take time to rebuild that trust. It's not going to be easy, and there are a lot of things we need to work through. But we're willing to try. For you. For the family we used to be." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. After everything, after all the mistakes, my daughter was willing to give me a chance. "I don't deserve you, Sarah," I whispered. "But I'm so grateful. I don't want the money to change us. I want to be your mother again. The woman you can rely on, the one who loved you through everything." "We'll get there, Mom," Sarah said. "But it's going to take work. I need you to be honest with me from now on, okay? No more secrets. Can you promise me that?" "I promise," I said, the words feeling like a weight lifting off my chest. No more secrets. The conversation ended with a sense of relief, but it wasn't over yet. I still had one more person to face, Jack. While Sarah seemed to be ready to move forward, Jack's anger was still there, simmering just beneath the surface. I knew he wasn't ready to forgive me, and I didn't know if he ever would be. But I had to try. I decided to visit Jack the next day. It was time. When I arrived at his apartment, I saw him through the window, pacing back and forth. He didn't look happy to see me when I knocked, but he didn't turn me away either. "Mom," Jack said, his voice guarded. "What is it? I thought we were done talking about all this." "I know you're angry," I began, my voice shaking. "And you have every right to be. But I need you to understand something, Jack. I kept that secret because I didn't want it to change us. I didn't want the money to become the thing that defined who we were. I didn't want you to see me as just a woman with wealth. I wanted you to see me as your mother." "I don't know what to think, Mom," Jack said, his eyes filled with frustration. "You kept this from us for so long. I can't just forget that." "I'm not asking you to forget, Jack. I'm asking you to see me for who I am. The woman who raised you, who loved you, even when I didn't know how to love myself. I made mistakes, and I will live with that. But I want to start over. I want to rebuild the trust we lost." Jack didn't say anything for a long time, and I felt my heart pounding in my chest. But then, slowly, he walked over to me and placed a hand on my shoulder. "I'm not ready to forgive you, Mom," he said quietly. "But I'm willing to try. For you. For us." Tears welled in my eyes again, but this time they were tears of relief. My son was willing to try. "I'll take that, Jack," I said, my voice thick. "That's all I need. A chance to prove that I'm still your mother, the one you can count on. No more secrets. I promise." It wasn't over. The road to healing was long and uncertain, But at that moment, I realized something important. Even though my family had been torn apart by secrets, it wasn't too late. Love could still find its way back. The days after my talk with Jack felt different. There was a shift in the air, a subtle change that I could feel deep in my bones. The tension between us wasn't gone, but it had lessened. We were moving in the right direction, and for the first time in a long while I had hope. I knew we weren't there yet, but I could see the path ahead. It wasn't easy. Trust is something you can't rebuild overnight. It's something that takes time, sometimes more time than you want to give. But as the days passed, Sarah and Jack began to visit more. First it was awkward. We sat in silence sometimes, each of us unsure of how to move forward. But little by little we started to talk again about the past, about what had happened, and most importantly about where we wanted to go from here. One afternoon, Sarah came over to help me with some gardening. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. We worked side by side, digging into the earth, planting flowers in the little garden I had always loved. It wasn't much, but it felt like we were planting the seeds of something new between us, something we could nurture and watch grow. "I've been thinking about everything, Mom," Sarah said as she handed me a trowel. "About the money, about the way things were. And I've realized something." "What's that?" I asked, looking up at her. "I realized that what really hurt wasn't the money. It wasn't the inheritance. It was the fact that you kept it from us. You kept so much from us, and we didn't know why. It felt like you were keeping us at arm's length, like we couldn't be trusted with your real self." I felt a lump in my throat. "I didn't mean to push you away, Sarah. I didn't know how to share that part of me with you. I thought it was better to keep it hidden, but now I see how wrong I was. You've always been the one to take care of us, Mom. But sometimes we need to take care of you too," she said softly. The words hit me harder than I expected. For so many years, I had thought I was the one who had to hold everything together. I had been the strong one, the one who kept the family intact. But now I was learning that I didn't have to do it alone. That night after dinner, Jack and I sat down together in the living room. He didn't say much at first, just sat there quietly, his hands resting on his knees. But then he turned to me. His eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in a long time: softness. "Mom," he said quietly, "I know it's been hard. And I know I've been angry with you. But I'm willing to try. To forgive. Just going to take time. And it's not just about the money. It's about us, about how we move forward." "I'm not asking you to forget, Jack," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I just want us to move forward together. As a family. And I promise I'll never keep anything from you again." There was a long silence, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. Jack nodded slowly, his expression softening. "We'll get there, Mom. One step at a time," he said, and for the first time I believed him. In the weeks that followed, we continued to take those small steps forward. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of doubt, but the healing had begun. We spent more time together, playing board games, going for walks, even just sitting around the kitchen table, talking about things we hadn't discussed in years. One evening, as I sat in the rocking chair on the porch watching the sunset, I realized something. I had spent so much of my life carrying secrets, hiding parts of myself, afraid that if I let anyone see me for who I truly was, I would lose them. But in revealing the truth, I hadn't lost my family. I had found them again. It was never about the money. It was about trust, love, and the courage to be vulnerable. In the end, I didn't need millions to feel rich. I just needed my family. And that, more than anything, was worth more than any fortune I could ever inherit. The days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. And with each passing day, my family and I found our way back to each other. The healing wasn't immediate, but it was steady. We began to rebuild what had been broken, one conversation at a time, one moment at a time. The fractures in our relationship didn't disappear overnight, but they began to fill with understanding, forgiveness, and patience. There were still times when the weight of the secret lingered, when the pain of the years I had spent hiding the truth felt heavy in my chest. But those moments were fewer now, replaced by the warmth of shared laughter, the comfort of knowing we were all working to move forward together. One evening, as I sat in the garden watching the sun dip below the horizon, I thought about everything I had gone through. The years of struggle, the years of keeping things locked inside, the years of believing that I had to carry the burden alone. But I realized, sitting there in the fading light, that I didn't have to carry it alone anymore. My family was with me. We had learned to share the load, to lean on each other when it felt too heavy. And that, more than anything, was what I had needed all along. Sarah and Jack came out to join me, and we sat together in the quiet, the three of us, in a way we hadn't done in years. There were no more secrets between us, no more walls. "You know," Jack said after a long silence, "I've been thinking. All that money all these years. It doesn't matter, Mom. What matters is that we're here. We're together." Sarah nodded, her eyes softening as she looked at me. "I agree. The money never made us who we are. It's our love, our family, the things that have always mattered. We've learned that now." I smiled, feeling the warmth of their words fill the spaces I had once thought were too broken to mend. "You're right," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "It's not the money that makes us rich. It's the love we share. And that's worth more than anything I could have ever inherited." As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I knew that everything I had gone through had led me to this moment. The moment when I realized that the greatest gift I could give my family wasn't money. It was the truth. In the end, the secret had been a lesson in disguise, a test of trust and love. And while it had taken time, it had led us to a place of healing. Now, as we sat together, I understood that the wealth I had kept hidden for so long was never the true inheritance. The true inheritance was the bond we had built, the love we had found again. And that was worth more than anything money could buy. The journey had been long, and it had been hard. But in the end, we had found our way back to each other. And that was more than I could have ever asked for. Thank you for joining me on this journey, for following Beatrice's story from the beginning. If this story touched you, please like, comment, and share your thoughts. And remember, the greatest wealth in life is not what you inherit. It's the love and connection you build with those who matter most. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch your heart, and take with you the lesson that love, honesty, and family are worth more than all